A shanty town is set up in the middle of the financial district in Lower Manhattan, attracting thousands of people during the day and hosting more than 200 campers overnight. Yet most mainstream media channels somehow miss the story. People from all walks of life have banded together and begun to occupy space as a form of non-violent protest. The strain of the recession, mass job losses, plummeting home values, and deferred retirement dreams provided the climate for the movement. Canadian anti-consumer magazine Adbusters sparked the movement when they published a call for 20,000 people to peacefully occupy Wall Street on September 17, 2011, taking a stand against the influence of money and corporations in American politics. It wasn't until the 24th of September, after 80 people were arrested and police resorted to pepper spray on peaceful protesters, did the Occupy Wall Street movement gain its first major media coverage. The occupiers have criticized the media for first ignoring the movement and then for marginalizing it. Patrick Brunner, an organizer for Occupy Wall Street in New York, claimed the initial coverage of the protests included almost nothing that talked about the reasons for them being there.
All mainstream media is privately financed, so they're only going to reflect what those corporations want them to say. You'll never get the God's honest truth.
Many believe large media corporations aren't willing to properly cover the events, as the movement is questioning the system on which many media organizations rely on. Not only has prominent and reputable mainstream media sources been arguably biased or guilty of a lack of coverage, but many media outlets have also delved into misleading coverage of the nonviolent protests, claiming violence on top of disorganization and unclear demands.
Isn't a uniform theme here. They don't really know what they want.
I think if you put every single left-wing cause into a blender and hit power, this is the sludge you'd get.
Free market. So they really don't like freedom because they'd empower the government to take everybody's money and redistribute it into programs they want, right?
Oh, absolutely. Mob uprisings are always left-wing.
The Occupy Wall Street movement is basically socialistic.
Because these are hardcore communists. They've been trained at ruckus camps ever since they've been drugged up as babies.
They're jobless because they don't want to work. They admitted it.
They're passing out free condoms. There's been open sex going on there. Drugs easy to score.
These misleading reports of Occupy Wall Street being a hippie commune for free sex, drugs, and violence dominated the coverage of the movement. Protesters tried to denounce the misleading coverage, but with a limited audience.
Because coverage would require truth and facts, and Fox News is very much lacking. And I see the cameras there all the time. I know they have microphones. I really wish they would do the service that they were supposed to do by informing people based on facts instead of making us debate silliness.
Media coverage of the protests was also skewed by external factors. Police blocked many journalists from getting into Zuccotti Park during the eviction on the 15th of November. There was also reports of police brutalizing journalists, confiscating press passes and cameras, and unwarranted arrests. The mainstream media has a history of poor coverage of peaceful protests. The media argues generally non-violent protests these days are formulaic, don't draw a big enough crowd, and are therefore not newsworthy. Philosopher and activist Noam Chomsky argues that the real reason media doesn't report on protests is because they show people they can do things, that they don't just have to be passive and isolated. And you're not supposed to have that lesson. You're supposed to think that you're powerless and you can't do anything. As you can see, media coverage of the Occupy Wall Street movement is skewed by internal pressures of media organizations, police physically stopping journalists from getting a story, and a general trend by media outlets to dismiss non-violent protests as hippies trying to push love and freedom, deeming them unnewsworthy. I hope this clip has been able to shed light on the misleading media coverage of the Occupy Wall Street movement and make you a little more critical of what's being said or not said on your nightly news.